Where will it end? Huh? With him dead. Oh, and then? Have you learned nothing? They will replace him before the body's cold. Hercules had his Hydra. You have the table, except you'll run out of bullets before they run out of heads. Kill him, but do it the smart way. And get him to give you your freedom. How? Turn his rules and consequences against him. Challenge him to single combat.
Woo, welcome. You have now entered Mad Warfare, mutually assured distraction, where we explore the weird, terrifying, and sometimes hilarious ways war is fought today, and how we can all protect our minds before we go too mad to find them.
Oh my!
Dangerous pattern. Dangerous pattern. Dangerous pattern.
Can you talk if you haven't got a brain?
Dangerous pattern. Dangerous pattern. Dangerous pattern.
Reminder, the opinions on this show are ours alone, and honestly, we might regret some of them later. They don't reflect our employers, past, present, or imaginary. This is a playground of wild ideas, so please, don't take anything here too seriously, unless it's genius. Then it was definitely intentional. Welcome back, Mad Stans. I'm co-host Jocelyn Brady.
And I'm Sean Anthony Guillory.
And I'm producer Amin El-Filali.
And today, because of the topic at hand, we owe you a disclaimer in advance. We're talking about socially acceptable assassinations, which we hope not to be on that list.
Certainly.
And the reason, we talked a lot about this episode and in planning and thinking about it, and it's going to be messy and wild and wacky and fun. We'll see, as fun as an assassination can be. Oh no! So already disclaimer. The first thing
we've been disclaimed. We've been disclaimed.
We do not endorse this. We do
Not at
not
all.
endorse assassinations. Here's the reason we're talking about, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Sean. Why are we talking about socially acceptable assassinations?
All right. We are a warfare-focused podcast. We talk about warfare in two ways. One, defining it as an antagonistic political struggle. But the other kind of thing we want to really have folks see warfare more as is seeing war as a communicative act where every action, even kinetic action, has a message attached to it. Now, when it comes to defining the success of a kinetic strike or kinetic action in warfare, it can't just be as simple as did you hit and did you strike? All these actions send a message. When we talk about this test to assess the success of kinetic operations, it ends up just being easier to describe it in terms of assassinations where it's one or a few folks striking with kinetic action, your targets, and then what is the messaging that goes around it.
So, and I think one more thing to reiterate is the reason we're looking at assassinations is because people identify with a single person. We're not going to relate to a massive number of people. It's just our brains aren't equipped to do that. Mm-hmm. So here we're looking at assassination where we clearly can see a character getting assassinated, usually a character who's done the act. It's always going to create some kind of lasting story. It's just depending on
Absolutely.
Did your action contribute to the story you want to tell?
Beautifully said.
So let's get into the test. All right, everybody. How do you measure the success in kinetic operations in warfare? How do you merge kinetic and cognitive to really understand the effect of your actions? You run the Luigi test. Okay?
The Luigi test.
Now.
It fits. I promise everybody in there it fits. But the Luigi test... Go on, Jocelyn.
Now, okay. I'm going to walk through it really quickly. I'm going to briefly explain it. And then we're going to use it. We're going to share stories so you can see how this test helps us understand through different assassinations over time how it would look in practical ways and operationalize, as Rebecca was shout out Rebecca Nicholson.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Luigi test. You ready, kids? Is it lethal? L for lethal. U for unfolded as planned. I for intended, message received. G for galvanized, public response. And I for inspired, lasting change. It's just like Sesame Street.
That was Sesame. I hear the count just in my ear right now. Let's see how we go with this.
One more time quickly. Lethal is the character dead. Unfolded as planned, as the assassin wanted. Intended, the message was received as intended by the assassin. Galvanized, a public response, or did it just disappear in the wind and no one cared? And inspired, some kind of lasting change, as in did systems or countries or regimes or larger things at play change permanently or for a long time?
Perfect. That's it.
The Luigi test. What does it look like in practical ways? What does it look like through these stories? So we're going to walk you through 4 assassinations and see if it passes the Luigi test.
Exciting.
Okay, the first one up is Shinzo Abe. But first, for listeners, what's the context of this situation and who is this character? Let's paint the scene of the story. On July 8th, 2022, the Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was shot while giving a campaign speech.
With a ghost gun made with metal pipes and duct tape.
Yeah.
And it was a homemade double barrel gun. And Tetsuya Yamagami, the guy who shot him, was a former member of Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force, right? Captured immediately, motive stated up front, not political, but personal revenge.
Right.
So...
Okay, I'm seeing parallels with something else. But the character, so the assassin has a struggle in his life. And I'm seeing here, his
one
mom
that
joined
correct
the Unification Church. And then, his dad died by suicide.
Right.
His older brother gets sick. And he's pissed and desperate. So he's holding this grudge and he's saying, like, we have this strong human urge to find a villain. And he places that into the Unification Church. And Shinzo Abe becomes the symbol of this villain.
Correct.
That's kind of the story background to this.
And it broke the illusion of safety and order, which is not a small thing, a feat in a country, Japan, with extremely low gun violence.
Yeah, because in America, gun violence is like what I just took a breath of air, and there it's extremely rare, right? It's like
I'm sure this gets into our Luigi lens, but it opened a lot of questions nationally, right? Gun control, even DIY weapons, security protocols for politicians, the influence of religious groups and government.
Yeah, what happened to the church, Unification Church?
Well, as of this week, Japan voted to close them down, at least in terms of Japan. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
the
cascade is still not unless you're the Moonies. It's still cascading. That
wow.
Yeah, in Japan. Yeah.
Okay, so great. The Luigi test on this case. Was it lethal?
Without question.
Target down. Did it unfold as planned per the assassin?
It didn't seem like one of those things where the person thought they were going to get away or get unscathed. So I'd actually say yes. And in terms of did it go how they want in terms of the act, I would say yes.
Like they wanted to get caught because it was part of their story.
I bet you they wouldn't even be surprised again if they would have lost their life at that moment. Right. So if anything, they may have been a bonus.
Was their intended was the intended message received?
The answer is absolutely. By the act itself and the surprise, I think folks immediately want to know what's going on, who's this person, why they did it, and it didn't take too long to be like, oh, if I was in that person's situation, maybe, it ended up being understood. Yeah.
So even though the stated motive was personal, it tapped into national anxiety about power, corruption, and hidden influence.
And part of, I think, that intended message is this church should no longer, they're bad and they're wrong. His message would be,
Right.
look at these villains.
Then the next one in terms
And galvanized a public response. G.
So this is also something good to define. I bet his audience that he was focused on was mainly domestic Japan. And I think they reacted loud and clear in terms of like understanding and making movements. And again, even so much so that, you know, there was contention about even funding Abe's funeral.
Yeah.
So it was pretty immediate in terms of the response from everyday folks in Japan. So yeah, I would say again, passive flying colors. If that main audience is going to be domestic population in Japan,
Know your audience.
yeah, correct. So that
Storytelling.
it goes back to the know your audience. Absolutely.
And the last part of the Luigi test, did it inspire lasting change?
Like the church not having a place in Japan, what it did to Shinzo Abe's party. I'm actually curious if there are like maybe other laws or whatnot, maybe help out with that kind of like exploitation that, you know, his family, his mother went through. I would not be surprised. But I'd say in a lot of categories, like real societal change following it, I think it's absolutely mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's every letter
Celebration
in
noise?
Luigi.
I don't know.
Every letter in Luigi.
It passes the Luigi test.
Not test you want to pass, but yeah, it is something in terms of like every criteria we put out there, it hits in terms
Killer
of
contestant.
in terms of assessing if the kinetic action was successful. It hit everyone. Where again, if it only took one bullet to absolutely change the society, like where you'd want it to be. I mean, I guess we'd save a lot in terms of defense budgets, but again, just that kind of thought
Chris
can
Rock.
help it. Yeah, exactly.
The Chris Rock bullets.
Not the Chris Rock. Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Bullets are like like $50,000 a piece. Very good.
You don't need no gun control. You know what you need? We need some bullet control.
Who's up next?
Shinzo Abe. Who's up next? Who's on deck? We have
What do we got?
MLK.
Yeah.
For anybody who doesn't know context of the situation in America at this time in 1963, and by the way, he was 26 years old when he's leading a boycott after Rosa Parks got arrested, and Rosa Parks had back then the audacity to sit where she wanted to on a bus with the wrong color skin in America in that time, according to the segregationists and the nasty people. One of the guys who used to hold the record before Cory Booker broke it. Okay. So Martin Luther King Jr. comes up and he says, I have a dream. And this is 1963 at the Lincoln Memorial. It's one of the most iconic speeches in the history of the world. And this man is filled with kind fury for changing society to accept people as people. His courage made him a target for the cowards. April 4th, 1968, he's standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, and he's shot and killed at the age of 39. Luigi test.
Luigi tested.
Lethal.
Correct. Passes in terms of that.
Yeah. Unfolded as planned per the assassin.
We are not going into the conspiracy theories, but again, it's usually attributed to James Earl Ray, if I'm not mistaken. And you have all these stories years later for folks like where they thought they may have lived in a society where kind of like lynchings that happened not too many years before that, where you could murder people of color and possibly get away with it. They thought perhaps maybe that could have been something where they may not have been tried or maybe even got away with it because possible political climate. But I think it's safe to say, if or if not even going down what they talk about years later on Who's Planet or whatnot, that it did not go as intended. Yeah.
So, I mean, even if unfolded, no.
Yeah, I say no.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Not fully understood, right?
Correct.
Yeah, still ambiguous, mostly no. Leaning no. Was the intended message received by the assassin? From the assassin?
I would think it would be one to have folks be fearful. Folks who kind of like participate in those kind of movements. Yeah, I would actually question if the intended message was absolutely received or not.
Well, if the message was, and this is part of probably why it's a no, because it's not extremely clear. Like, we're inferring that the message was be afraid to speak up for civil rights.
Right. It was, so one could say it was received and met with such a big opposition, and the years have sort of proven that even this state that surveilled him now quotes him, or
correct,
sort of.
Yeah.
So in that regards, you could take it from that, or you could go, hey, the message was received, just not successful in quelling, the fight for equal rights.
I think this is still in big, because we're getting into galvanize, which is my instinct too. But if we're just looking at was the message received, I'd say maybe.
Yeah, I put it a maybe
because we have to infer
as well. Yeah. It wasn't clear as day. Whatever side you were on, everybody's kind of agree. So yeah, I put it as a maybe. Yeah. The next,
and then we get to galvanized public response.
Oh my goodness! So I feel like it would be the exact opposite of
not what they wanted.
Correct. Not what they wanted, including Civil Rights Act being signed not too long after that as well.
It sparked protests and riots in 100+ cities. It helped push through the Fair Housing Act, which mostly out of fear of further unrest in the time. That's 1968. The assassination created change, but under pressure.
So this is also getting into inspired lasting change, which is these things kind of one thing bleeds into the next. But galvanized public response, it absolutely, if we say galvanized their desired public response, so maybe this is an update to the framework, it did not galvanize their desired public response, assuming they wanted people to be afraid and back down and shut up. It did the exact opposite. So this is interesting also when we look at this test, because I think you're hearing it for the first time, everybody, that we're trying it out too. Inspired lasting change. So if we look at it from the perspective of the assassin who's trying to accomplish something, did it inspire the lasting change that they want? It did not insofar as civil rights. And I want to go to a curveball now. So let's be clear. MLK, no. It does not pass the Luigi test. There's too many question marks and ambiguity. Okay, so Shinzo Abe, check. MLK, no. Next one, because we're talking a lot about kinetic.
We interrupt this episode to say, if you've ever felt really alone and didn't know where to turn, may we suggest, put the picture over here, Elle Yonker. Elle is what national security should look like. She protects people online as a cybersecurity expert, but she also shows up for people in crisis through the Hive Social Garden, which helps folks find real support when things get hard. Her website, thehivesocial.garden. She's our first recurring sponsor. Thank you eternally for that, which feels exactly right. Elle, this is for you and for everybody listening. Please go to her website, thehivesocial.garden. Feel free to bother her on LinkedIn. She'll probably appreciate it. Now, back to the show.
And let's talk about another kind of assassination. I'm going to need your fellas' help on this story, but Kendrick and Drake. Can you explain for our audience who is Kendrick and who is Drake?
All right. So Kendrick Lamar and Drake are two incredibly known artists, hip hop artists, MCs, where Kendrick Lamar is known as the sort of the poetic legend, Pulitzer Prize winning top notch writer, right? He's known for authenticity, craftsmanship, right? So that's Kendrick Lamar. Drake, I'll be honest, I don't know that much about Drake, but what I do know
Wait,
is
I thought you used to call him on his cell phone.
Oh, put that in there. But
Yeah.
commercially, Drake, if you're going by numbers, I would
Well,
think that
the artist
so
and
yeah,
the pop.
so yes, so exactly. So Drake, right? He was more the archetype of the pop R&B star who also had his foot in culture and was trying to define culture in his own words. So this is a culture war in some ways, right? So Kendrick and Drake's ongoing feud isn't just about personal rivalry. It's a fight for cultural dominance.
antagonistic
So-
political struggle.
Exactly. So Kendrick's verse on Control, and so this is kind of gets a little nerdy, but back in 2013, Kendrick goes on a track, and he starts to declare a lyrical war, right? He calls out his peers and staking his claim as the leader of hip hop.
You said 2013 or 2023?
2013.
Wow, that's that far back?
Spec-
Okay, gotcha.
That far back, specifically as he was incredibly frustrated with the state of hip hop being so polished, gate kept, right, and always about cars, money, drugs. So 2013, he goes out, declaration of war. He knew there was fear. So state of hip hop, pop music, complete hijack of the mainstream, P. Diddy. Not to mention the mafia tactics, extortion, domination of anyone who wouldn't play ball. So street politics meets sort of this industrialized, systemic whole chokehold on hip hop, on mainstream hip hop. So that's quite some context, but very important so you understand why the narrative messaging of anything that Kendrick came out with had purpose. And it all sort of culminates into this David Goliath story. And so now we are in 2025, and we just witnessed a
What happened?
what did we witness?
A
socially acceptable
assassination.
assassination.
Yay.
Boom.
Yay.
First try.
And
Exactly.
that's not even what was I going to say? Controversial of us to say.
Right.
No.
Is anybody rooting for Drake?
I'm
Well, actually,
sure
the
there
bigger
are
thing
still...
that anybody think that Drake won at this point.
Oh wait. Okay.
Right.
I
Let's
don't know. Like again, like
Luigi
good-
test. Luigi
Luigi
test.
test. The
we've gone
biggest
through
thing,
the
this
narrative.
is why I talked about the philosophy at the very beginning in terms of lethal.
Yeah.
Because as
I, before you go into test, actually, I will say I gave all that context, but I didn't give the context to what happened just recently, which is basically
Right.
Drake and Kendrick. This all culminates into this beef. These are the archetypes, right? Like you're sort of authentic, man of the people, and then Drake, the commercial reigning god, and they both fight for the crown, right? And this beef is not just one track going back and forth. There's a bunch of tracks going back and forth.
Lyrical blows now including serious allegations. Drake accusing Lamar of domestic violence and Lamar accusing Drake of relationships with young underage women.
Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young.
And guess who destroys the other? The poet, the writer, right? The person who, the archetype of authenticity.
To say for the kids too, for people who don't know, the track is Not Like Us, and Kendrick performed it at this year's Super Bowl, which was also part of a very interesting context because there's litigation happening, and he's like, I'm doing it anyway, and the crowd went wild for the last line, which is a beautiful play on words, and you're just gonna have to listen to the song and see what it says.
Yeah.
Okay.
God.
So
lethal.
Luigi test on Drake and Kendrick so we can give people a little bit more context. Lethal
In terms
is the
of
character dead?
So this
Yes.
is where we get like in terms of the physical aspect. Is it there or not? No, we're happy that they are both living and breathing individuals. And I don't know if this is like a industry by industry basis, but as Amin really kind of eloquently put it, rap is entirely narrative and reputation based, where in a lot of ways, again, that reputation and what you put out there in your words or narratives, that's kind of everything. So if we look at it that way, and you mentioned again, like, did the character get killed in terms of the character assassination? Drake's gonna need like a gospel album to like come back into the public. I can't think of anything else where at least in the next 15 years, besides a courtroom where he's trying to do some lawfare to get something out of all this. The character of Drake, especially the untouchableness that Drake kind of exuded, that's certainly dead.
Let's say the character we're looking at, Kendrick is running the Luigi test for this purpose.
Correct.
So from Kendrick's perspective and his audience,
I put a big maybe on Lethal. As in, like, if we talk about character assassination, this is something we may want to like vet further in like a write-up or whatnot, or throw it out to, you know, the bigger audience to think about. But Lethal's like
that's a good shout out.
Yeah.
For the audience, you tell us: is Drake dead? Is his character dead? Please email us.
Pop up
madwarfarepodcast at gmail.com.
Madwarfarepodcast@gmail.com. Oh,
I'd be very happy with an audience reaction to
we
this.
Would really
we need polls. Yep.
Yes.
But Lethal, again, big question mark how you kind of define. Obviously, again, Aubrey is still in a living, breathing human being, but in terms of the character, that may have been shot dead.
Yeah.
So next,
he says dead to me as Cosby and Diddy. So okay, Unfolded.
Did it go as planned?
Unfolded
from
as planned.
Kendrick?
From Kendrick's perspective,
I would say very much yes. And if you just go with those lyrics and believe, like, if that didn't kill him, it sounded like he had more songs until the body stopped moving. The character body stopped moving. So I would say it unfolded as well as he played. Again, Kendrick certainly looks better from it in terms of like, did he get away with it? Yeah, I think he did. More than ever, he got away with it. Yeah.
I think this category too, that unfolded as planned, to add more color to it, is that this is, did the assassin get away with the act the way they planned to? Did they get shot in the process? Did they want to? Did they get arrested? Did they want to? Did they get away with it? Okay, intended, was the intended message received?
Yes. Oh,
I think so. I think of it differently.
So much so 100%. That, again, don't want to get into the lyrics. But, again, you got my 10-year-old, like, Natalia, don't go near Drake. So it's just one of those things where, like, intended, real or not, the message is there. Yeah. Again, so clear. So much so a 10-year-old can understand it.
That shot hit, like, as I definitely saw Drake differently.
Yeah, intended message received,
The beauty of this story is that you have someone who took the long route of authentic storytelling. He had a music video and brought in a director who basically put in Easter eggs everywhere to prove that he is a person who can unify Los Angeles. He brought the LA gangs together in the video, which is an incredible feat that no president has been able to do. We are now at a point where we see an actual message of unification and hip-hop as a sort of a tool for peacemaking instead of just a voice of the streets or a voice of demoralizing topics like commercialism, right? So I think that is such an incredible example of like, hey, story is so powerful that it could even win against people who only cheat.
So we have lethal, we talked about unfolded as planned and intended message received. And this is also reverberating out into galvanizing public response, the G in the framework, and the inspired lasting change or systemic change is right. In this case, did it galvanize public response? Absolutely, yes. You're talking about people unifying, people calling Drake out. He's shunned. And then inspired lasting change or bigger systemic change.
Folks who weren't typically listening to hip hop were talking about this. And then actually, the funniest thing to me is like after Super Bowl, again, I'm seeing TikTok challenges from people in like the Philippines and South Korea doing stuff in terms of like to not like us. Galvanize, my goodness, again, like where can Drake go in this world where he's not going to get at least a giggle behind his back? I don't know. Where can he go? Inspired again, I think it's like a to be continued sort of thing. We're talking about again like kinetic actions and like playing that out. Words in this instance can absolutely kill you.
What's next?
All right.
Next up, we have for our final assassination story to assess the Luigi test. We are looking at Luigi Mangione. Now, first, let me say, insert Bill Burr and alleged assassin Luigi Mangione. For those of you who haven't heard of this, what? Now, when was this? So much has happened.
It was
recently.
December 2024. That's when it happened.
So in December of 2024, America reeled when the CEO of a health insurance company was shot by somebody in the streets of Manhattan at 5 in the morning, just outside of his hotel. There was no security. It was just one-on-one. Security camera footage caught this and attempted to trace the whereabouts of the figure who shot the CEO. And this person evaded authorities. You know, it was a very elaborate tale of going onto a street bike and escaping for, 4 days? And we were all just, riveted by the story. This is an amazing story. The stakes are there, the characters there, the mystery and curiosity of what happens next. And then that moment, a young man named Luigi Mangione is apprehended in a McDonald's.
Pennsylvania, maybe?
I think so, somewhere outside of like a few hours from the site of the killing, and allegedly has on him pieces of a self-made gun and a manifesto. Convenient. And this kid, Luigi Mangione, young man, is this is important as per, again, shout out to Shane Morris episode. He's this attractive kid who, I keep saying kid, he's in his 20s, okay? To me, he's a kid. And before we do the test, as people started digging into who this character, Luigi Mangione, appeared to be, you know, all the internet sleuths, everybody's riveted and going online and trying to dig up stuff on him. And it turns out what people are finding out in this discovery is he's had chronic pain for quite a while. He's had family, like grandparents who had unhappy experiences with health insurance. And now for the larger, you know, when he was spending time in Hawaii, all of his friends loved him and adored him and said he was the kindest person. And he comes from an upper class family. And then one more thing around this is, if you don't know, I think most of the world is probably pretty aware, but the American healthcare system is absolutely whack. The American healthcare system is trash. People here are suffering and struggling. It is egregiously expensive to even get it. You have to be employed or spend hundreds of dollars independently. If you have a family, you're looking at $1,000 and up at least. per month just for the insurance. And then once you have the insurance, you have to go through this crazy system. It's this complicated network where you go to the doctor and you're like, hey, doctor, I'm in absolute pain. Let me take time out of my pain to ask you, is my insurance going to cover this? And you do this little fun back and forth to figure out why the money that you're spending to have this kind of coverage isn't going where it should be. And you don't feel like you're being cared for. You feel more insecure and scared and drained. And that is this big, 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 big frustration that resonates before we get into the framework with pretty much every American. Okay. Off the podium, Luigi test. Okay. Lethal from the perspective of the alleged assassin Luigi Mangione.
Brian Thompson is no longer alive, who is the CEO of United Healthcare. Correct.
Check. So, clear as day.
Correct. Yeah.
Was it unfolded as planned?
From what we know, which, again, this is very much of the moment in terms of if there's future interviews or whatnot that contradict that, then, we would certainly yield. My guess is only partly in terms of the act going into the lethality. I would say yes. By all indications, it doesn't look like whoever, and again, it's still allegedly, again, if it is Luigi or not, the person did not want to get caught. In fact, I think it would help probably with the messaging or whatnot. You had that kind of messaging where, like, okay, before anybody was caught, who are the suspects? It could probably be like millions of Americans who felt wronged by healthcare. And I think that's probably more of how this person wanted it to unfold. So I wouldn't give it at least full marks because by all indications, I don't really know. Correct. So a lot of it ends up like we just don't know. But by all indications, looks like this person did not want to get caught. And if the person who committed the act ends up being Luigi, then yeah, I would say only partial credit on that. Did it unfold as planned? Because I don't think getting caught was part of it.
Right. Because reminder, it's unfolded. Did that person get away, like, to personal consequences to themselves as planned?
All right.
Unfolded as planned. So that's a big gray area. We don't know yet. Was the intended message received?
Oh boy, howdy! The bullet casings having denied to pose and defend. I think again, there's no manifesto needed. And it was also something where in that intended message, if we're talking about real, like, kinetic acts towards an individual, part of that message that needs to get out there is, could me and my family be next? I don't think anybody outside of healthcare insurance CEOs needed to worry. I think that message was very well received. It's probably one of the best examples where the act itself tells the whole story and has the whole message in it.
Yeah, and I would say intended message received, like to your point, I mean, shell casings with messages, that's so clever. But the message received by the executives at healthcare companies who took their profiles off of LinkedIn or off of their websites.
It got into personal security. It was about impact completely. It's just so many of these narrative little things, but we'll get deeper into that in the next couple here. I'm learning.
Did it galvanize a public response?
I think a lot of from the news folks who thought they were reporting, my gosh golly, a CEO has been murdered, and thinking that would lead to a response of mostly folks feeling sorry for the CEO and wanting to find who assassinated. I think there was a big surprise. I still don't know exactly the percentage breakdown, but it was certainly a lot more than I think folks in media and whatnot were expecting in terms of people being sympathetic towards the assassin.
He became a folk villain and a vigilante martyr at the same time. It's like right? It was like emotional dissonance at scale. So it's like the online reactions even right after is different horror, rage, catharsis, like conflicted admiration,
knock jokes. Yeah, it's
this is one of the most united I had seen American sentiment, at least, going in forums, going on Reddit, going on Instagram, seeing social media, and maybe that's just how the algorithm fed it to me. I don't know, but it certainly felt the vibes that most of the people I spoke to didn't endorse at all. It's not about being happy with somebody dying. It's like, wow, this message needed to be heard, and the media, how the way they're reporting is so out of tune with the public sentiment. So I think it did galvanize people insofar as like we want people to understand how frustrated we are and how much of a change we want to happen. And like insert the prisoners shouting for treating Luigi better too. It's like he was in the same prison as Diddy, and Diddy's like getting jealous. Support like the rumors are Diddy's like, what? Why do people like this guy and they don't like me? He's like, look in the mirror, bro.
My gosh.
No, it's like it's funny mentioning Diddy, who back in the day the beef that Tupac had with P Diddy and Biggie, he made P Diddy and Biggie look so bad. Why did people form themselves around Tupac the same way they formed themselves around Kendrick and now around Luigi? Is because at the end of the day, not counting the ethics and the morality of this happening, is like the most protected symbols of that system, meaning the healthcare system and what it stands for, got shot in the face. And so what did Luigi do? Yes, he made himself the question. And now we have to live in the world where that we have to answer that. And then if someone is good enough with telling the story where you're just a character in it, and they decide it's a David and Goliath story, you find yourself to be the Goliath that gets conquered by the 99%.
It's fitting that, so we talked about, there's like before as a narrative frame that we all kind of have that's like construct of the world, and this fits the narrative frame really beautifully. And like two things I want to bring up. One, in both the case of Kendrick and Drake and allegedly Luigi and Brian Thompson, they are symbols of kind of like art and like rugged determination to overcome odds and make your art and connect with people for that purpose. This pureness that true or not, this is like the story, the narrative framework, and right, versus polished corporate power systems.
Exactly.
The shiny CEO, the shiny healthcare, and David and Goliath, as you said, versus like the scrappy fighter.
Yeah.
With the Luigi test, we went over lethal, obviously. Unfold plan, that's a question mark. Intended message received, again, probably one of the more successful in terms of getting resonated. Galvanize, again, it was surprising. I'd say it's still ongoing in terms of initial response. Very much so in terms of like getting the conversation going. Then we get to inspiration, which is going to be hard. I got one thing to bring up in terms of to inspire systemic action. We're first week of April. We're recording this. I believe it was late last week where California introduced, there's some news articles that are calling it the Luigi Mangione Act, but it is something to make it harder for healthcare insurers to deny medical care. So that's at least one tally mark in terms of inspiring.
I am looking at a letter. This is a .gov address, and it says Initiative 25-0002 from the Office of the Attorney General in Sacramento, California. And it says, it's a letter to somebody, and it's, I request the Attorney General prepare a circulating title along with a summary of the chief purpose and points of the proposed measure. I would request that the title be the Luigi Mangione Access to Healthcare Act.
Wow.
So, again, that's a tally mark. But again, Luigi is allegedly, if he is the killer, Luigi's still an alive individual that will probably have time on the stand. They're probably going to ask questions around that. So some of that is we kind of don't know what the full inspiration is in terms of what you want for a system. If it's something where no healthcare insurance companies exist, that's a much farther goal to say that he actually inspired that action. But again, this is stuff that may happen over time versus, some of these little changes where even internally you see some of these health insurance companies changing their policies to lead to more denying. If that's going to be a long-lasting effect versus there is doing this when this is still a news story, that has yet to kind of bear out. But inspiration, I think it's still too early to tell.
The killing of United Healthcare CEO here in New York, another health insurer reversed a policy change that had been very strongly criticized. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield had planned to pay different rates for anesthesia based on how long it lasts. Now, that's now being rolled back.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of unfolding with the case, and was just seeing what happens. That's the Luigi test on Luigi to be determined.
Correct.
That's the Luigi test, everybody, to look at success in kinetic operations for socially acceptable assassinations. And again, we are not endorsing this.
No,
not at all.
We're not endorsing. Please don't be angry. There's so many groups that could get angry. Do not get angry at this. Also, whatever things I've said, there's so many podcasts also that talk about culture and that have analyzed the Drake and Kendrick beef. I'm sure I missed many things. My apologies. I hope I
disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer at the beginning and
the third,
everything we say. Yeah.
It's like
Unless it's
Russian nesting dog, the Russian nesting doll of disclaimers at this point.
Exactly.
So we want to hear from you. Please share your opinions on the test to see if it works. Be constructive, or you can send snacks. I don't know. And email us, madwarfarepodcast@gmail.com. I want to touch on something that Sean has talked about too, which is one of your worst nightmares. I don't want to speak for you, but one of your worst nightmares is that this truly becomes acceptable as a practice. And that is something that is one of the reasons we're talking about this, is we don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Glad you brought that up. My fears in terms of, I'm trying to do my best again, like not to make it political. Everybody's looking for a hero. If they're not going to find it within their own government, we should be very afraid of some of the folks that could step up to play that hero role.
People are looking for heroism in their leadership, in that they are uniting and elevating everyday people, everyday hardworking people who just want to look out for their families and make a good living and find some laughter in the madness.
Absolutely. I don't know how to end this episode.
I think that's it.
Even me just like cut it off like right there.
I've come to talk with you again. Come and be inside my head. Cancel me, cancel me. I got things to say, you can cancel me. Cancel me, cancel me. I got things to say, you can cancel me. Cancel me, cancel me. I got things to say, you can cancel me. It's only a matter of time till we all win. Cancel doesn't stay. It's only a matter of time till we all win. Cancel doesn't stay. It's only a matter of time till we all win. Cancel doesn't stay. Cancel me. Cancel me. Cancel me. I got things to say. You can cancel me. Cancel me. Cancel me. I got things to say. You can cancel me. Cancel me. Cancel me. I got things to to say. You can cancel me.